Hi everybody, this is Flash001 USA. It is December 24th, 2012, Christmas Eve. On my last video I said I was going to make some changes to the Wood Gasifier project based on some of the stuff that I found and learned from the prior setup I had. So what I'm going to do is cover that with you. Alright, let's start here. I replaced the vortex filter with a 10-gallon propane tank, and I'm going to tell you why I did this. So it's still kind of the same configuration. The gas comes out, it goes into the input of this propane tank, which goes all the way to the bottom down here to where the weld line is. So you can see where the paint is not as rusted. That's how far it goes down. And that means the gas travels to the bottom of this thing, has to fill the container up. Then it comes out of the top, and that's just literally welded right into the top. I've got the fitting stuck maybe an inch in there. So that's where the gas goes in, comes back out. And the reason I did this is I wanted to lose heat, because from what I was learning from the last test with the dual setup with the dual pipes and all this, that, and the other, was, to me, a lot of the keys to this is getting that gas to cool down. And I thought, okay, you know, the vortex filter, oh, it absolutely works, make no doubt about it. And I'm going to show you a little bit of video showing just how well it does work after I get through doing this little explanation I'm doing here. So I wanted to try this right here. Like I said, I felt that in this large container, the gas would be able to expand. It would cool down a lot before it went to the pipes, and I was right. Absolutely made a big difference. So what I'm doing now is I'm coming out of that. I'm going into 5 foot of single pipe that goes up, and then it goes into dual pipes, and I did that to kind of break the velocity down to allow the gas to expand more to cool down. It goes down here, the runoff goes into that jar that's right down here, okay, and then the gas continues on its path on down through the pipe here. And of course this is my ignition. This is where I put the first vacuum so that I can get burn the thing good and hot without pulling tar and garbage into the filter system before it's warmed up. I'll explain more on that a little bit later too. Now it goes into this 5-gallon bucket, and this is what I was talking about in the video also, that this doesn't have any filtering in it. It's got filler. What I did is I made hollow aluminum foil balls and put in here. And what I was wanting to do was have the gas come in here, not as much filtering it as giving it some place to condense and to lose as much moisture, because I noticed when you're losing moisture, you're losing tar. Then it comes out of here, goes back up into this pipe here, which goes to the regular filter that I have, that I use newspaper and wood chips in. Okay, that's the quick explanation of it all right there. Now I'm going to go back to this vortex filter and show you something I found really interesting here. Don't think a vortex filter works. Now I'm going to hope you're going to be able to see in this and see what I'm seeing here, so bear with me as I maneuver the camera. I'm going to try to zoom in on the input of this thing. I want you to see, let me get this to focus. I want you to see how much crud and creosote is on the input side of this vortex. I was amazed. It's almost lost 1/3 of its input diameter in there just to creosote. I actually knocked some of it out with my finger, and I wish I wouldn't have. I wish I could have seen it all. I mean, it was like a clogged artery, you know, or something like that. It was amazing. And I probably had, I don't know, I'm going to say 16 hours burn time on it, but it was pretty clogged. I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to show you what the output of this thing looked like. I'm going to try to, like I said, it's dark out here, so I don't know if you'll be able to see it. So we're going to zoom in. This thing is absolutely clear. Now it's got the heavy tar that's stuck to the sides of it, but I mean it's absolutely clear inside there. There's no chimney effect on it where you see looks like you've been burning coal for 20 years. Like I said, this side here, hopefully the camera's picking that up and you can see it. So this vortex absolutely worked, and as a matter of fact, you can see just how black this jar is. Every time I would empty it, it would be just black goo inside of it with little chunky pieces of whatever was flying out of there that was going through the barrel. But the thing about it was, you know, it got hot. It got as hot as the gasifier itself did. And I picked up on this when I ran the double set of 5-foot pipes, the dual pipes. I knew then, I was like, okay, the part of the equation is cooling this fuel down. Now, some of you may be wondering, well, you know, the vortex removes large particles. Yes, it does. As you've seen from the shot I did on mine, you can see where it captured cruddy cruds and didn't let them go on the output. Now, on this guy here, I just did a workaround with it. I've got a couple of very loose Brillo pads, stainless steel, stuck in here, not in the tube where it's clogged up, but they're like dropped down and then gently pulled up so that they're gently up against the output side of this. What that does is that allowed the gas to pass through, but would stop the hard particles from going up in there, or some of the heavier creosotes would just settle on the pad, and I could just take it out and crumble it and clean it. Alright everybody, we're back. It's about 6:45 p.m. December 23rd, 2012. I figured I would go ahead and let you guys see me ignite this thing up. This is going to be with the new setup, and I will be lighting it up before it gets to the filter. So the gas should be pretty orange, and it should pull a pretty big flame when it gets going actually, because without the filters in line, there's no restrictions on how hard the fan can really tug on the gasifier. Even though I'm set up with the power supply with the battery charger, I can go 6 volts and 12 volts. Pretty much all the videos you've ever seen me running, I was running 6 volts. I just found out 12 volts, I really didn't need that much vacuum on it. The system actually lights up pretty easy. So on that note, I'm going to walk over here and light it up, and we'll see what happens. Now we'll be lighting it up on 12 volts because I want it to light up quicker, so I will light it up on the higher voltage. But when I actually do the burns and I'm running it where you've seen the video with the blue flames in the past, I've always run it on 6 volts. So I've always seen there's been plenty of tug on it. So here we go, let's get started. It's always pretty neat to light this thing up. I like to see the thing start up when the smoke starts pouring out of it. I do this in the evening for these videos because it makes it easier to see the color of the flame, especially if I'm going to upload this to YouTube. This way you kind of know exactly what I'm putting out of this thing. Let's get started. It'll light up pretty quick, actually. All right. You can see it's already starting to blow out smoke. I doubt if it'll burn, but it's coming out. We're already producing some gas. Now, you've seen how fast I got this thing lit up with some smoke coming out of it. I said in my past videos that it actually lights up pretty quick. I'm going to see if I get any kind of flame off of it. Not yet. There's a little bit of blue in there with it. I don't know if you guys can see that on camera. There it goes. I'm telling you, this thing lights up extremely, extremely quick. There you go. I'm going to get out of the way of it. Still not going yet. Now, as a safety precaution, when you're working with these things, say I shut this thing down and come back to it the next day, you always run this fan before this thing is burning for about 5 or 10 minutes to evacuate any gas that's trapped anywhere in the system. It's not like it would blow up like a bomb, but you don't want to have a food factor happen on you. And what you're doing when you're doing that, you're just basically evacuating the system to make sure there's no residual gas left over. Now, that's not bad, man. You guys seen how fast I lit it up? And I've got the air blowing pretty hard on it. I'm going to cut the air back on it in about a minute or two here. And this thing, it'll literally have just one humongous orange flame on it. I'm surprised to see as much blue as I see on it right now. So I'm kind of surprised about that. Normally it's pretty orange until the burn tube gets hot, because once that burn tube really gets some heat generated on it, then you see a good reaction out of this thing. And especially when you swap over to the filters, the gas will just, it'll look like you're burning gas right off the gas stove there. So, on that note, I'm going to drop this thing back down on voltage here a little bit, because to even have that kind of flame sustaining tells me that I've already got a bed of coals in this thing. Once again, I always start off with a small handful of wood stuck in there, then I pile like exactly 4 cups of wood pellets on it. That gets me a good bed of coals going. That's the first thing I do to get this thing ignited. Right now too, I'm burning strictly off the light tube on it. I've got the top of this thing covered up, so the only air it's getting through it is through the ignition port on it. So I'm going to go shut it down, and we'll shut the power down to 6 volts. And actually, that's not a bad little flame, considering this thing is still ice cold out here. Not bad at all. Hopefully, yeah, you can see it in the video. I'm kind of amazed it's actually burning sort of clean. Normally, it's so orange, it's not funny whenever you're burning before you get to the filters. So, you know, it's not burning too bad right now. It's actually doing what it needs to be doing here. I've got 2 voltage settings on this thing, not only 12 and 6 volts, but I got 6 volts, I think at 3 amps to 6 volts to 6 amps. And I'm going to cut it back down to the lower setting of 6 volts now, and actually cut it back even a little bit more. Now, what I have noticed when you first light these things up, the system gets extremely hot. There it goes. The system will get extremely hot, and then what happens is it starts to stabilize and everything cools down. But you can see I've got a good flame on it right now. So I'm going to go close up the ignition port and let it get its air through the top. Now, something that I'll say right now that I'm picking up on, even with the new setup, I've got a lot more blue in the flame than I normally would have with any build that I've ever had, you know, going before it goes through any filters. And that's a good sign right there. You know, like I said, I think that I'm possibly onto something, getting rid of that vortex and giving a big cylinder to capture its fuel in. So on that note, I want to see how warm these pipes are. I'm pretty sure they're pretty hot. Actually, not at all. Look at this. I got my hand on it, and it's maybe every bit of 120 degrees, maybe. Up at the top, it's cold, or it's pretty cool. Cooler, cooler, cooler. Ice freaking cold right there. Ice cold. It's as cold as it is out here. So it's promising, people. Very promising. Alright. Now I'll wait. I normally give it about 15 minutes before I touch anything on it, before I go switching filters over. Because normally I want this thing to get a good bed of coals on it. To me, that's the magic. That's the secret on it. Now I'm going to crank the fans back up on this thing here, the vacuum up on it, and just let you see something here. Alright, 6 volts at a higher current rating. I'm going to crank it up to 12 volts. Look at all the blue in the flame. There's a hell of a lot of blue in it. People, it's not even being filtered, not one bit. And I'm already getting an extremely blue flame at the bottom. My hunch may have been right on this, guys. It may have been right. And the thing about it is, I'm not even through with the filtering or the modifications to this. I'm almost getting a blue flame, a complete blue flame on this without a filter. I'm sitting here watching the yellow go out of it. There's not even a filter with the thing. This is sucking it right off of the tubes and igniting it right there. That's bad to the bone. Now crank the fan up. Look at that. All this chit-chat I've been doing, this thing is still cold. Very cold down at the bottom. This is cold. Look at this. Very cold to the touch. I hope this is showing up in the video. I am extremely happy with this, people. Ice fucking cold. Now, this goes back to what I said in the daytime when I started filming earlier. What I think is happening is the cooler you get this gas, the more everything starts to condensate, or you know, you get where everything settles down. And what I think in reality is happening is when not only does the gas compress because it's as it cools down, which makes it even more flammable, but you know, it's like anything else, the tars start to settle. Alright, I've swapped over, haven't lit it up yet. Still letting it just kind of blow its gas through here for a minute. Let it kind of get rid of the oxygen. I'll turn it up on high here. It's not really putting out a lot of what I call smoke out of it. Now I look for it to burn a little bit dirty here for a minute. It's not as much dirty probably as it is that there's residual air that's left in there, because on the bottom bucket I've got hollow balls of aluminum made out of aluminum foil in there, and the top is the usual filter with newspaper, and on top of that I've got a layer of wood chips. But it's already starting to turn blue now. It's starting to lose the yellow back out of it. On that note, I'm going to pause out here for a second while I go over here and move some stuff around. I'm trying to conserve the battery. I'm going to make some measurement tests. I don't know why, because everything that I've been touching here with this, it's cold, people. I'm going to start over here first, and I'll swoop around and hit some other areas with this. I started around 6:45. The time now is, it's been running, I don't know, almost a half an hour. Okay, so let's go over here. I'll read them out since you won't be able to see what I'm reading over here. That's about right. That's what I expect. About 220 degrees at the top of the gasifier going into the filter. I'm going to hit it right here at the elbow going in. 144 degrees. The top of this thing is about 120 degrees. You can see me laying my hand on it, so you know I'm not faking it. The side of this thing, 110 degrees, actually 109. I mean, I felt electric blankets warmer than that. And of course you see me, I got my hand on it, rubbing it all over. Of course I wouldn't do that to this, but you can see that I've got my hand on it. Absolutely cool, considering what we're never burning fire this thing. cool. It's probably about the same temperature as this right here. It's just a little bit cooler than this, than the very top of this, but then again, I would expect heat to rise up and get the top of this thing hot. All right, I'm gonna hit it here. About 90 degrees. That's here because I've got a rubber piece here that I married these together with. So 90 degrees. About 70 degrees. About 60 degrees right there. Down here it's warmed up a little bit, but it's all practical purposes, it's cool. About 54 degrees. And I'm noticing something else too. I'm going to zoom in on it with my camera. $5, it says most of my tar and stuff is running off into the first barrel, which is where I wanted it to run off. Because I'm noticing now that I just don't have that much of a buildup. I'm going to get over here so we can zoom in on it pretty clear. I don't have a lot of tar and drip off running off in that first jar. I'm going to try to put a flashlight on it too, so hopefully you'll be able to see this. Forgive me because I'm having a hard time maneuvering this camera. I got to get this little viewfinder where I can see what I'm looking at. But about 1/4 of an inch of runoff in it. Normally within the first 30-45 minutes I would have had a little bit more than that, so we'll be monitoring that as the night goes along. But all is looking good. I'm going to pause, and basically what I'm going to do is I'll bring you guys in on the loop. As always, I'm running wood chips and sticks and everything else. Alright, just wanted you to see that I'm definitely burning a clean flame over here. So I'm not sure what time it is, but I'm fixing to go look and tell you. $8:30. Everything's still running pretty cool, just like it should be. See, I got my hand on it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Pipe. Everything's staying cool. So I'm going to tell you, it made a difference switching up to this setup. This was definitely a step in the right direction. Now, I'm going to zoom in on the water here that's been collected. Been running almost 2 hours, just a few minutes shy of a couple of hours. Let you take a look at that water, and you see what is collected. So in 2 hours, I've raised up to, looking at it by eye, I would say 2.5, 3 inches. 2 3/4. Not as good as I used to be. Still clean within reason. On average, that's about how my flame will burn with this thing. I'll get a little bit of yellow in it, but most of the time when I hit that magic spot, it'll be solid blue. And then I load it full of fuel, and then what I wind up with after a fuel load up is what you see right here. And I don't know if it's actual tar, or if what I'm seeing is that that extra bit is hitting it and is causing it to run extremely rich. So that's something I got to research right there. So I'm going to sign back off, and I'll come back on here again shortly. Anyhow, going back over this system, I'm going to have my own personal opinions on the Wood Gasifier, and you know, its strong points and its weak points. I can tell you right now, with a 4-inch tube, you do deal with bridging if you're burning the kind of material I am. Now, if you're using wood pellets, probably not as much. But you can see right there, I'm just, you know the fuel I'm using, and that's extremely purple blue. So that's actually probably a good gas that could run in an engine without clogging up valves with any kind of tars. I'll be pausing this video and breaking it up into little sections because I really don't want to use any kind of tripod on this, but first thing we're going to look at, so we can see what the worst case scenario tar looks like, is the pre-ignition output here. Okay, and I'm going to pull this off and just let you see the gobbledygook. Now you know why I'm going to be wearing gloves when you see this. Okay, I want you to get a look at that. Man, I could seal a roof with that. Now you know. It's going to come into here. I've already disconnected it here. And I'm going to show you the first set of pipes leading into the main filter. I hadn't even seen them yet. I want you to see how much it cleaned up. You can still see the white on this. That's amazing, trust me. So, did it make a difference having this first capture set up here? Yeah, it did, man. It helped, but it's not the overall fix for everything. But it definitely made a difference. I wish I had the daylight out here. I really can't tell from looking at this camera what it's seeing or what it's not seeing, so I'm just having to take a guess and keep my fingers crossed. But you can see, there we go, that it's not gooey like this. Now keep in mind, this has only ran for 15 minutes. Each time I ignite, it looks like I painted the damn thing black. This ran for 4 hours. And you can still see plastic. Now this was the output from the bottom barrel. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pause. We're going to open it up and see what kind of secret surprise is inside. This is the inside of it. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see it. Matter of fact, let's take a look and see what was put on top of the bottom side of this lid. Let's see what anything condensated. Nope, looks nice and clean. I'm going to start pulling these out one at a time. Yeah, I've got gloves on, man. Trust me. Okay. A little bit of gobbledygook on it. Looks like they were spray painted. And like I said, I don't know if this is going to be the right medium. I'm experimenting with this also. This is nothing but just a process, man. Just experiment, see what happens, throw it out there, see what comes back. I also want to see how much water was captured in here too. As you can see, when I said I had very loose aluminum balls in here, that's what I did. So I wanted to be sure that I had all this crazy surface area in here for this thing to do its mojo with. So still looking. And for those of you considering building one of these things, keep in mind, this stuff is nasty. It won't be once you get your system set up, but you know, it's just about as bad as sticking your hands in the toilet cleaning it. All right. And I did have one piece of steel in the bottom of this thing here. The way I did is I got these air jets on the bottom of this thing, which they're equal to, the holes drilled are equal to the output of this. Matter of fact, a little bit more. And they're aiming down, so they had to spray downward for the gas to come upward. And this is the piece of metal that I just kind of had laying over the top of it. And you can see this stuff it definitely did some collection, okay? Now, no rain was able to get in this last night. I had this slid up under my trailer, and this is the water that came out of it. Okay, we're going to see here. So that was my first filter. Yeah, it definitely captures some gobbledygook in it. I think you could have done more if I had a different kind of medium in there, and that's going to be something to experiment with. Just one quick note here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. I'm going to zoom in on it here. This is my output port. I actually drilled a couple of small tear holes in it so that as water was hitting this thing and going into the smoke was going into it, that hopefully anything that would come into it rather than running down the pipe would drip out a couple of holes in the bottom of it. They were just big enough to let it have runoff. Just a side note. Now here's the interesting thing. I mean, I had blue flames burning on this all night. I want you to see something here. I don't know how well you're going to see it, but I I want you to see just how much I got off on this thing just then. I mean, it's gooped up right there, right at the input to the fan. Okay, I knew this last night when I was doing this. After I'd done the tests, I kind of took a peek at it before I let anybody else in these videos see it. And what I did notice though is everywhere this what was happening, as the fuel would come up through this thing, it would drip down. I always did this every time I did this, and I'm sure there's others of you out there that seen the same thing. It always drip and make a puddle in one place. You can just sit there and grab it, and it looks like all your fuel's absolutely clean. The strangest thing you'll ever see. All right, after pulling that goo ball out of there, you can see, I mean, man, this stuff looks pretty clean. It really does. I can see that it's browned up some because I know what it's supposed to look like. But it's pretty darn clean. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this off and we're going to look at the newspaper that's in the bottom of this, okay? So I'm going to pause. Alright, we got that out of it. What I did in mine is I put a screen in here. Okay? And works pretty good. And then I put newspaper in. I don't pack it, I put it in there very loosely. But I want to show you what this looks like now. Because you can really see the difference in what it's collecting on the newspaper. And I want to see how much water puddled up in the bottom of this thing. Yeah, this stuff smells like funk. Now these jets, I faced them up. I just did. It actually made it a little bit drier in here. I can tell you right now, running without that bucket, that water would have been up here and maybe even a little bit more. So it made it drier in here, but I still feel that I have a tar issue. This concludes the video, and you were there with me, up front and close. I hope for some of you all out there that's considering building this, I hope you find this data of use to you. All right. The changes that I made to the system, I feel were in an absolute positive direction. When I got rid of the small vortex filter and I went with the 10-gallon propane tank, I knew I was absolutely in the right direction when I was able to lay my hand all over that thing all night long, including the pipes, and they never got uncomfortably hot. If you've ever read the FEMA plans, if you've done any research on this, they're going to tell you right off the bat, it's absolute paramount that you get that gas as cool as you can. And there's a couple reasons why. First of all, imagine a glass of ice sitting out on a summer day. What happens to it? You get the condensation on it. Okay, the same thing happens with this gas when it starts cooling down. In the process, not only are you losing water, but you're also losing tar with that water. And that's why the water is always brown when you look at it. But there's another big plus to this. The gas compresses in on itself. It becomes a hotter burning gas, or another way of putting it is a higher octane. I'm definitely no know-it-all or the see-all with this. Hey, man, I'm like anybody else out there with this. This is a learning experience. It is a painful experience, and I've got scars on my hands. If you look at those videos, you'll see it, where I've cut myself, burnt myself, pulled pieces of steel out of my fingers, etc., doing this, okay? But it's all been for a good cause. I'm going to tell you why, because I feel that this fuel is absolutely worth going after. The thought of having a homegrown fuel, man, that's just a big rush for me. Not only that, with these uncertain times, it may not hurt to have a backup system. The reason that I've been using wood, not wood pellets, is I want to be totally independent. I mean, you never know. Something may happen. I may not be able to get up to the store. It may just be a bad 2-week snowstorm where I'm stuck here at the house. It may be a crisis of another kind. It doesn't matter. Whatever the reason is, I want to know that I can make this thing run off of whatever I can get my hands on. And if I'm going to make a system that runs on wood pellets, then I may as well just keep a regular fuel here for the generators. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with wood pellets, and they do serve a purpose. All right, I did say I was going to talk about the FEMA gasifier. So here's what I'm going to say about it. If you're going to build one, do not build anything 4 inches and smaller. I would suggest 6 or 8 inches or bigger. You can always go back and adjust the bottom part of it for a smaller output. As far as the bottom part where the coals are, you can always set that smaller to match the motor you're going to be running with it. Read the FEMA gasifier plans. They'll tell you everything about RPMs, motors, you know, that is horsepower, not RPMs. They'll tell you about the horsepower versus the throat diameter of the output on it, and they're right on the money with that, okay? The FEMA gasifier I built up, yeah, I do see tar off of it, and you guys seen that I was able to burn an extremely blue flame all night long. So there's still issues with it. I'm still playing around with my filter media, and I'm going to be trying some different things, so there will be plenty more videos coming online from me, okay? Just be aware of that. With that said, I want you guys to do two things for me. Take a moment and rate my video. Just let me know what you think. But I want you to have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I will see you guys on the other side. So this is Flash 001 USA, and I'm fixing to turn this camera off. What, you don't believe me? You watch this.